Hey team, this is the first video where I'm going to talk about some of the challenges I've had to overcome with our own product while building GitDock. And I want to focus on pipelines specifically today. So let me open up our CI YAML file. And the first larger problem I ran into was figuring out how to keep my ci.yaml file as small and as readable as possible while also building out an entire pipeline. Interestingly, I started off building the same pipeline for my GitHub mirror at the same time as I developed the product or the small side project on GitLab. And what you can see here in the GitHub workflows folder is they allow you to just put in a couple of different files, specifically mention when each of these would run, but all of them would be considered by whatever's running in the background to see do any of these need to run, whereas for us the GitLab ci.yaml file is the only entry point. This made it tougher for me to separate these aspects and, for example, separate pipeline aspects that only have to run whenever a new tag gets created versus also when a merge request has an event. So I know that we have some ways to fix that with includes, but it's tougher than just having it work from the beginning on and basically giving yourself a list of different files that can run and not having to worry about whether all of these will run or whether you will just need your only one CI YAML file. The second bigger problem I ran into was using Chrome driver for my tests. GitDock is built in Electron, and for testing an Electron app you need Chrome driver. Because our Linux image Node latest that I've been using before doesn't have Chrome driver, I had to spend a lot of time testing out different ways to get Chrome driver to install. I had to install a ton of dependencies as well, and you can see here I ended up with more than 100 commits because it was so tough for me to figure out how to make this work correctly, but also how to only install as minimal dependencies as possible to not overload the pipeline. So figuring out a way for us to have a template or maybe find a way to give users better information about what dependencies they need to install to make something work could be huge here, because as you can see, this took me a couple of days and quite a lot of pipelines had to run just for me to test whether it would work or not. Another piece that I'm currently still struggling with is in the pipeline, I built all of my installation files so that I automatically add them to the release. But what that also means is that because we still have this issue open, artifacts filename cannot be set with dynamic variables, I currently have to name all my artifacts in the same way. I cannot add the version number into the file name, which is something that users specifically have been requesting and which makes a ton of sense. But as far as I know, I'm currently still blocked by this 5-year-old issue. And final piece, when I'm creating a new release, I automatically add all of the different installation files to it, which works wonderfully. And right when you go to the releases, you directly have all of these linked here. But I was very surprised by having to use packages and registries for that. I had never connected a release installation file to be hosted somewhere in package. And this first caused me a ton of confusion when enabling it. And it also shows that the interface is not really made for it. When we're here in a package registry, you can already see that we have all the different versions in one long list. And this is something the testing team already is working on, and thanks to Gina, who already mentioned that in her UX scorecard, is going to fix it. But to this day, I'm still very unsure whether release binaries should belong into the package registry and whether users would expect them there, or if it would be a smart idea for us to just use the same backend, but display this information differently to the user. So these were my main problems with the pipeline setup while working on GitDock. I'm going to release a couple of other videos with other aspects in the next couple of days, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you all think about this.